Welcome back, my fellow filmmakers. And today we're going to be talking about the old but trusty #1 hybrid of 2018 and 2019 and why it was the best hybrid of that year. So yes, the camera was nominated for the best hybrid of that year, but I just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about why I love this camera so much and why I keep going back to it. Now, this is the A7 III, shoots photos, shoots video, and that's basically why they call it a hybrid, because it's good for both. Now, the reason why it's good for both is because the megapixel count is high, and it's full frame. It has S-Log2. It's got all these video settings that us filmmakers like. So now the reason why I love this camera so much, and the reason why I just found myself going back to it, is just the way the S-Log2 looks. Now, the reason why it's a great hybrid is because of the great megapixel count, the video settings, functions, and basically the ergonomics of this. And the #1 reason is that it's a full frame camera. Now, the reason why I love it is because it has the S-Log2, S-Log3, HLG profile, and Cin 4. And it's got the built-in image stabilization, which is huge for us filmmakers because a lot of people who shoot handheld or even on a gimbal, that image stabilization is going to come in handy a lot. There are a lot of cameras that don't have it, such as the Blackmagic Pocket cameras. Now, you can just really tell when you're shooting on a gimbal or handheld with those cameras. The #1 way to get rid of the micro jitters that you get with those cameras is by making your rig as heavy as possible. Which in this case, you don't really have to do it with this camera because it's got the image body stabilization built in. Now, over the year, I picked up the Blackmagic Pocket 6K camera because I just wanted to step up the quality, shoot in B-raw, and just there are several other reasons why I picked that camera. If you are interested in that, let me know in the comments. I can possibly make a video for that. The reason why this camera has some pros and cons, which every camera does, because there is no such thing as a perfect camera. The only downfall on this camera is that it doesn't shoot in any higher bit codec, such as 10-bit or 12-bit RAW. It only shoots in 8-bit 420 internally. But I find that it's not that bad. It all depends on how you are grading your image and how you're exposing. Now, there are several theories on how to expose for S-Log or shoot in S-Log. My main way on how to shoot S-Log is to just expose by what you see on the monitor. I wouldn't go by these theories of 1 stop, 2 stops over. Expose by what you see on the monitor. If you like it, it's gonna look good. But I wouldn't really use S-Log2 in harsh lighting conditions. Because of the 8-bit codec, you are gonna see a lot of blotching and the video is basically gonna fall apart. Now, this camera has served me well shooting 20 weddings, 20 plus weddings actually, for last year, with only one lens, and that is only because I only really wanted to buy one lens and I just made use of that. So now this camera is packed with full of picture profiles, which I feel like is more than enough for you to get out there and start shooting something creative. The battery life on this camera is amazing. The main reason why this camera is so good is that the low light capability is great. I feel like you can push S-Log2 at ISO 6400 and above. I've shot several things at a higher ISO and it's turned out really well. The photos that come out of this are super sharp, high megapixel count that is good to do prints or for web or whatever you need to do. The only thing I don't really like about it is the screen here. I wish this came up a little bit more or flipped out, but I know with the other cameras that are just coming out or have came out, have that in the camera as well. So now one other thing that I don't like about this camera is that it's got a micro HDMI on the side here instead of a full HDMI. I find that the micro HDMIs are super weak and tend to bend, especially when you're on a gimbal. I feel like a lot of weight kind of puts it onto the HDMI and it kind of bends and then you lose connection. That's my one downfall on this camera. So now your next question is probably, is it worth it to buy the Sony A7 III in 2021? 100%. The reason why is because, it takes great photos, it does videos, it will do everything you need it to do, plus more. So now jumping back to when I picked up the Pocket 6K camera, the reason why I picked that up is because, not only because I didn't think this wasn't a good enough camera to do its job, The main reason is because when I was shooting a music video, the monitor actually was turning off and the camera was turning off. I had no idea what the problem was. I was actually gonna go shoot a destination wedding a week after, and I kind of didn't trust it, especially being out that far and I had no other camera on me. So the main reason is that you always need a second camera for a backup, because you never know what's gonna happen. The whole wedding that I'm gonna show right now was actually shot, the whole thing, on the Pocket 6K and 6K widescreen. I have a couple gimbal shots that I used on the A7 III, came in clutch. I'll show them right now, and you can't really tell. And mind you, these are HD. These are 1080 60p images upscaled to 6K. I have to say, kind of, it stood up to the 6K quality, and in my personal opinion, you wouldn't really tell except for, you know, that great autofocus, which is another thing that I want to talk about. The autofocus on this camera is amazing. I find that it kind of hunts a little bit in low light, but that also depends on what lens you're using. My autofocus to be right into the center, and everything that I end up shooting, I kind of compose my images to be more in the middle, or whatever is going to be in focus. I tend to have them right in the middle of the image, just so I know that that's going to be mainly in focus. If you guys have any questions, particularly on the A7 III and, you know, just setting it up properly on how I set it up, let me know in the comments below. So stay tuned for another video, and we'll see you guys next week.